Welcome to the Capture module for Lesson 2, Types and Stages of a Breach. This module is part of the Symantec Technical Foundation Security Solutions course. After completing this module, you should be able to define capture as a stage in a data breach, describe the ways in which capture poses a direct threat to the customer, elaborate on the key components and tools of capture, and describe how capture process is used to exploit organizations. In this module, we will define the capture phase of the data breach, discuss the methods used by cyber criminals to capture information during this phase, and then conclude with a review of the key takeaways. Capture represents the fourth phase of a data breach. In the capture stage, which occurs after the criminals have penetrated the organization and surveyed the data and assets, the criminals narrow down the most valuable information assets that are the least well protected. This is similar to deciding whether to crack a safe. Will the rewards be worth the effort? As the name implies, this is the phase where criminals actually steal or take control of the asset. However, they don't actually extract the information yet. That occurs during the final exfiltration stage. Given the risk and effort involved in breaking into systems, cyber criminals look for data with high value. It's at the capture stage where they're performing the trade-off or cost-benefit analysis based on the prevailing value of the assets versus how well protected it is. For example, bank account numbers, credit card records, social security numbers, passport numbers, all have specific values in criminal markets. In performing the trade-off, the criminals may decide that it's more profitable to target employee desktops as opposed to the corporate servers. Similarly, they may not target the official customer database because it's carefully guarded, but they may target a development copy of the same database or an end-user workstation that has valuable information or a file server with open permissions. As the cybercrime market evolves, attackers' targets and techniques do as well. The value associated with selling stolen credit card data has dropped over the past few years. The big money is now in stealing personal identification number information together with associated credit and debit accounts. The higher value commanded by PIN data has spawned a cycle of innovation in attack methodologies. The value associated with selling stolen credit card data have dropped from between $10 and $16 per record in mid-2007 to less than 50 cents today. Identity data still remains a high-selling commodity on the black market. Cybercrime has become a bigger market than the drug trading industry. Let's now move on to look at methods used to capture information. The purpose of keyloggers is to observe and record all key presses by the targeted user. Keyloggers may be pre-compiled objects that will observe all key presses regardless of application or context. For example, they could be used to observe the customer using Microsoft Word to type a letter. They can also be written in client-side scripting code to observe key presses within the context of the web browser. In particular, the loggers track authentication information entered in web-based application login pages. With these credentials, the cyber criminal can then use the account for their own purposes at a later date and time. Cyber criminals also use sniffers in the capture process. In the context of the capture phase, sniffers are used to capture credentials and credit card data over the network. As with keyloggers, they can be a component of malware or a separate tool. Data obtained from sniffers is typically stored locally on the file system of the compromised system and retrieved later. To hide the data, cybercriminals will use methods to hide these files in unallocated portions of the disk. Cybercriminals have developed new methods to encrypt data when stored. Sniffers can also be configured to span captured data over several files to keep the size down for easy extraction and exfiltration. There is also a category of capture tools that were designed to evade controls put in place to defeat keylogging. Memory scrapers are an example of this. They are sophisticated packet capture utilities in malware that can identify and collect specific data sequences within unallocated disk space and from the page file. Screen scrapers are tools that cybercriminals use to capture information that does not get typed into the machine. One common application is to covertly install screen scraping software on employee desktops at a compromised organization. When the employees log on to their own personal bank accounts, these utilities are able to capture information the users enter. This functionality is used to overcome some of the more secure financial applications that have special features built in to prevent against standard keylogging attacks. Other tools in this category perform web page injections. They inject HTML code to capture login information when users visit banking websites. The information gained from phishing attacks can be viewed as part of the capture process. Communication channels such as email, web pages, IRC, and instant messaging services are popular, with email being the most prevalent. In fact, phishing leverages many of the tools and techniques used by purveyors of spam email. In many cases, the lists of addresses used to deliver the phishing emails are purchased from the same sources as conventional spam. Phishing relies on a mix of technical deceit and social engineering practices. In the majority of cases, the cybercriminal must persuade the victim to intentionally perform a series of actions that will provide access to confidential information. In all cases, the phisher must impersonate a trusted source for the victim to believe. This could be the help desk of their bank, automated support response from an online retailer, and so on. The secret for many phishing attacks is to get the message recipient to follow a hyperlink to the cybercriminal's server without them realizing that they've been duped. Unfortunately, phishers have access to an increasingly large arsenal of methods for obfuscating the final destination of the customer's web request. The most common methods of URL obfuscation include bad domain names, friendly login URLs, third-party shortened URLs, and hostname obfuscation. Whaling is a capture tactic that is similar to phishing. The difference is a much more focused victim demographic. Whaling attacks target executive-level victims such as C-level corporate officers or high-ranking government officials. This type of attack usually involves an email that looks to be coming from an official source. The fraudulent email messages seek to obtain company data and present the victim with official-sounding directives in the form of legal subpoenas, customer complaints, and other executive issues. The executive clicks on it and a piece of malware is installed on his system. Cybercriminals target executives hoping to steal company data. One of the most successful vectors for gaining control of customer information and resources is through man-in-the-middle attacks. In this class of attack, the cybercriminal situates himself between the customer and the real web-based application and proxies all communications between the systems. From this vantage point, the cybercriminals can observe and record all transactions. This form of attack is successful for both HTTP and HTTPS communications. The customer connects to the cybercriminal server as if it was the real site, while the cybercriminal server makes a simultaneous connection to the real site. The cybercriminal server then proxies all communication between the customer and the real web-based application server, typically in real time. In the case of secure HTTPS communications, an SSL connection is established between the customer and the cybercriminal's proxy. Hence, the cybercriminal system can record all traffic in an unencrypted state, while the cybercriminal's proxy creates its own SSL connection between itself and the real server. For man-in-the-middle attacks to be successful, the cybercriminal must be able to direct the customer to their proxy server instead of the real server. This may be carried out through a number of methods, through transparent proxies, DNS cache poisoning, or URL obfuscation. In this module, we explored what the capture phase is and how it relates and differs from other stages in a breach. Now let's consider the key takeaways within the context of each learning objective. First of all, we define capture as the stage of a breach in which the cybercriminal actually steals data from the organization. This occurs after a cost-benefit analysis of the value of an asset. Next, we learn that there is a black market for data stolen from organizations and individuals. So you should be able to cite measurable and quantifiable threats to the customer. Tools such as sniffers, keyloggers, and memory scrapers are integral to the capture process. The data culled from the capture process can then be used to exploit the targeted organization.